All right, everybody, welcome to the University of Florida Sport Management Department's Voice from the Field, Season 1, Session 5. I'm Gabby Kraniak, a graduate assistant for Engagement, Learning, and Outreach. And Shelly Lyle, the Career Engagement and Outreach Coordinator, will be introducing you guys to David Campbell.
Hi, everyone. As Gabby said, my name is Shelly Lyle, and I will be interviewing David Campbell today, hearing about his work with NASCAR. So I'm going to intro him, and just as a reminder, if you have any questions, throw them in the Q&A box. It should be open for you to send those in. Check us out on YouTube. You can like or subscribe to our channel as we kind of send these out every week. So David, thanks again for being with us. We really appreciate it. And just a little background from David is he graduated from UF in 2013 with a bachelor's degree in economics, and he was a member of the UF football team. He also has worked predominantly in sports, starting with the Miami Marlins. He was there over 5 years and with inside sales. He was a sales executive, a manager of inside sales, and director of sales, and currently went on to move to NASCAR in this February, and is the director of group sales. So David, we're super excited that you're here, and look forward to hearing about kind of your journey. So if we can just start there, how did you get your start in sports, and what was the path that led you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me, guys. And thanks for allowing me to come in and chat for a few minutes with you. So my background side, as Shelly said, went to the University of Florida, got the pleasure of playing on the football team while I was there. I'm from a really small town originally from North Central Florida, about 45 minutes west of Gainesville. So born and bred, Gator fan, bleed orange and blue. Pretty much everyone in my family has gone to UF. So it's a great opportunity for me to be able to do so as well. Got a degree in economics, obviously had the business background, had the sports background, and really didn't know what I wanted to do as I got closer and closer to graduation. But figured there had to be some sort of way that I could make my business background and sports background kind of meet in the middle. And so decided I want to try to get into sports. Really had no idea what that looked like. Was fortunate enough, I actually sat down with one of the assistant baseball coaches at UF, and was just kind of picking his brain a little bit and in terms of how to get into the industry and what that looked like. And at the time, he actually advised me to go out to the winter meetings. Obviously, as we know from a winter meeting standpoint, that's when all the Major League Baseball teams are in the same town or under the same roof for a period of about 4 or 5 days. A lot of off-season trades and acquisitions and things happen then. But one of the little known facts about it is there's actually a really big job fair that's associated with that. And it's predominantly minor league teams that are trying to fill internship positions for their coming season. But fortunately enough, there was a couple of Major League Baseball teams that actually had jobs posted, and was fortunate enough to land with the Marlins. And so got the chance to start my career there in Miami in January of 2015. Inside sales rep, selling season tickets, group tickets, suites, game day hospitality, really kind of the whole nine, full menu selling. Then went to the AE route, still full menu selling, season tickets, group suites, the whole nine, but really primarily focused there on B2B sales. So selling a lot to the companies there in South Florida. After that, got a chance to lead our inside sales program for a couple of years, and ultimately made the jump over to NASCAR back in February. So that's kind of a high level overview of my background. Not to take so much time to kind of dive into each piece of that, but fortunate enough to be in the industry for a while now, and in a really good spot with NASCAR.
That's awesome. And did you want to work in baseball? Was that kind of your passion compared to being a football player? Were there other sports you were interested in? How did you get that niche?
Yeah, for sure. Good. I think I definitely grew up loving the game of baseball. I played all three sports: football, basketball, and baseball in high school. And had spent those 4 years playing football, and just kind of got to the point where was ready to do something else, and work in a different sport, and had always enjoyed playing baseball growing up, and so just went that route. Quite honestly, I think I would have taken a job if it had been NBA, NFL, NHL. Didn't really matter. Probably would have gone and done it, but MLB was at the time really where I wanted to start my career, and was fortunate to get that opportunity.
Awesome. And what, speaking just to your time with the Marlins, what was the kind of your biggest takeaways? What did you learn working for them in your 5 years?
Yeah, so crazy 5 years. Obviously getting the chance to start, and when I came on board, we had just signed Giancarlo Stanton to at that point was the largest contract in North American sports history. A 13-year deal that was 300 something million bucks. Had a lot of good offseason signings. We signed Ichiro Suzuki that offseason. So I was stepping into a good situation. There's a lot of buzz around the team, but didn't play too well in 2015. In 2016. Unfortunately, had the passing of Jose Fernandez, so that was kind of wild. Less than 2 years into your career, and you're sitting at the funeral of a Major League Baseball player, right? That's kind of crazy. 2017, we had the All-Star game. We had ownership change. Derek Jeter comes on board as the new face of the franchise, and so yeah, I mean, there was a lot that went on in those 5 years. I think biggest thing that I learned is can't get too high, can't get too low. Even when the team's not playing well, there's still a job to do on the business side of things. And obviously with all the craziness, there was still a ton of fun times as well. Being able to take part in the All-Star game and be a part of those festivities. I actually got the chance to throw slow pitch batting practice before the celebrity softball game, so that was kind of cool. Those are types of experiences that even far into your career, later in life, you're always going to look back and there's going to be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's always those perks, right? Those small surprises. And so what do you think with your time with them too, you really climbed that ladder pretty quickly in their sales department. So what would you say, allowed you to do that? What are some strengths people looking to be in sales need to have and kind of hone in on as they look to take some of those positions?
Yeah, for sure. So I, like you said, I was fortunate to be able to climb that ladder a little bit quickly. I think when I stepped into the role, I didn't really know if I was going to be good, bad, or indifferent. Whenever I first started in sales, I took in the mindset when I first started with the team of, I knew I basically had about a year to kind of prove myself and to earn that next step and earn that promotion. And again, I had no idea if I was going to be good at sales or not. Didn't really have too much of a sales background, so the thing I kept telling myself every day was just want to make sure that, at the end of the road, if it didn't work out internally, I wanted to do two things. I wanted to be able to walk out the door and say that I did everything I could to be successful. I just wasn't good at sales, right? That was number one. And then number two was I wanted to make sure I'd done enough to garner someone internally picking up the phone and making a call for me somewhere else, right? And trying to get me into a different position. And so that was kind of my mindset and the thing I kept telling myself all that the first year. And, lo and behold, one day it just kind of clicked. It's like, hey, this isn't that difficult, right? It's about having some genuine conversations with people and connecting with them and, getting them to see the value in your product. And so had a good first year and just kind of rode the wave from there. And, pretty early on, made the determination I wanted to try to get to management and, didn't have any idea it was going to come at the time it did. Our former inside sales manager just walked in one day and put in his 2 weeks. And so, it's just maybe right place, right time at that point. But, just a matter of always being prepared for the next step and seizing an opportunity whenever it comes to you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so then as you head into NASCAR, how did that work out? Why did you make that shift? I would love to hear a little bit about the transition and kind of what you do today.
Yeah, for sure. So I think in terms of transition, I've been in the previous role for 2.5 years. We had a lot of success. Our department, did a lot of really good things during the time, and had really just kind of felt like I had accomplished everything I'd set out to accomplish in that role. Really wasn't anything against the organization. Like would have loved to have stayed on board, but there was just it was a great opportunity that presented itself right at about the same time that I was ready to pursue that next opportunity. It's funny looking back 2 years, my boss now, 2 years prior, he just randomly reached out to me on LinkedIn one day and just said, hey, would love, we work in state together. Would love to have a networking call. So we just randomly hopped on a call one day and never met him before in person or anything. And we stayed in touch and, he reached back out. Here we are 2 years later after kind of stay in touch with him and said, hey man, we've got some positions that are going to open and, this is what this looks like. And, wanted to gauge your interest and things kind of went from there. So, it's funny how to look back on that. Again, it's just a random LinkedIn message that we all get and, fortunate to hop on that call to start with and be able to continue that relationship. But in terms of what I do now, I'm a director of group sales, so I oversee all of the group sales efforts across the entire NASCAR enterprise. So NASCAR owns and operates 12 tracks around the country. So tracks ranging from anywhere down in Homestead, just south of Miami, all the way up to Watkins Glen, which is up in New York, all the way to the West Coast in Los Angeles and Phoenix, and anywhere in all between. So we've got 12 tracks across the country. I manage a team of 24 group ticket sellers. And it's a little bit of a different setup. My team actually sits at the track level. So my team, again, is spread out from Florida to New York, all the way out to California. So gotten very accustomed to hopping on WebEx and Zoom calls because that's where all of my team meetings and trainings and stuff like that take place. And we do get the chance to travel some and go, have on-site visits and be there for a few days. I was in Phoenix last week for our championship race and got the chance to spend some time with our team out there too. But I oversee all of our group sales efforts, implementation, strategy, development, all that stuff, really kind of across our enterprise here.
Awesome. And what is your, kind of every average day look like? And then maybe what is the bigger picture of what is your year? I guess you just started and COVID's unique, but
yeah,
you could project what a normal year, whatever normal means, what would that be?
For sure. So my day as it sits right now, you're seeing it, right? A lot of calls and a lot of WebExes, a lot of planning. We just ended our season this past Sunday. So, we're full on. My team's been selling for 2021 for a while now anyways, but, we're full bore ahead 2021, planning, trying to decide, what does 2021 look like under COVID, situations, right? And so it's a lot of calls like this at this point in time. In normal times, especially once we get into season, I'll be doing a lot of traveling. So the plan would be that I'll, be headed to most of our races, assisting our team as we execute a lot of our group sales initiatives on race days. So huge opportunity there, obviously, to get to see all of our properties and work on site with our team. But as it sits right now, again, a lot of training with our guys. We're full bore ahead for 2021. So really a lot of, how do we find new groups? How do we find new outreach? How do we find new opportunities in each of our markets to reach out to? And, what's that value proposition for them, right? Why would they buy and why would they say yes to us right now where, if we're being honest, there's a little uncertainty as we head into next year with COVID and what that's going to look like. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does a race day look like for you? What would your role look like for those interested in kind of getting into the NASCAR world?
Yeah, so my role specifically, I will be working hand in hand with our team on site, like I said, to execute a lot of our group sales initiatives on race days. Our team, again, race day is going to look a lot different than it is in normal times. I guess I should say during the day, during our dark day, non-race weekends. On race weekend, they're going to be going and seeing clients. They're going to be, taking their groups from place to place. We're going to have a lot of experiential things that we're selling. So performance-based opportunities, God Bless America performances, dance performances, band performances, all those types of things as we really start to insert ourselves into the fan experience on race day. So our team during race weekends are going to be executing a lot of that and spending a lot of time with their clients. On a day-to-day basis, again, it's a lot of that self-prospecting, trying to find new leads in the market, finding opportunities where, we take a look at each of our venues and knowing each of our racetracks and venues are different, looking at them and saying, what areas have we not utilized before that we should be utilizing? What areas are underutilized that we can repurpose and do something else with, right? It's all just trying to think differently and thinking outside the box for us on our side because we're primarily new business focused. So, however we can try to find, new tickets and new group buyers is ultimately what we're trying to do on a daily basis.
Awesome. And as far as your experience goes, what would you say the most rewarding experience you've had so far in your career? And you can add in the Miami Marlins too. Obviously, you can give one from both. I know you've only been in this job less than a year, so.
Yeah,
but.
I think the most rewarding thing for me, I think I'll point back to my time with the Marlins. We had a lot of success when I was leading our inside sales program. And, to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what that is that, college seniors, people that had just graduated, maybe just being out of school, that's usually what your first sales job is going to be in with a sports team. It's going to be in inside sales. And so there's a lot of training, a lot of development, a lot of, all that is kind of trying to find those individuals you think have the right makeup to be good salespeople, and then ultimately getting them to see, to have that light bulb clicking, right? Similar to what I talked about earlier. So I think for me, being able to look back at my time in that role, and, we set revenue records while we were there, ended up having, I don't know, 20 or so promotions during those 2.5 years that I was leading the team. So I think that was a cool thing of really, seeing it all kind of start to finish. I was recruiting for the team as well. So, to look back and to think back to some of those first phone calls I had, in an interview, and then we hire them and we train them, and ultimately, they get promoted, and, they're crushing it now in their career. Like that's pretty cool to look back on, to know that you had the chance to actually bring someone into the organization and, give them basically their start in the industry as well.
That's great. And would you say that's the most enjoyable part of what you do? What have you found the most interesting? And then maybe what have you felt like is the most challenging, or things you haven't liked as much as far as the sales role in general goes from either company?
For sure. Yeah. So my job responsibilities now are a little bit different in a new role. So I think that would be, again, that would be what I would look back on at my time with the Marlins and say that was definitely the most rewarding piece of it all. Again, a little bit of a different scenario now. So not in a really promotion, focused standpoint, I guess you could say. I think, one of the challenging pieces of it is let's call it what it is, the climate that we're in right now, right? I was joking with someone the other day where we're trying to sell groups where people are actively being told to stay away from each other, right? Like there's an objection that we weren't expecting to have. So, but I think it all falls back to the value proposition and what we have to offer, and, the goals of our organization of getting, more kids and families and new eyeballs on our sport, is really sits on the backs of our team. And so, that's it's a huge position for us to be in. It's a great position for us to be in. And, it's just a matter of our team continuing on a daily basis to take advantage of that. Because, ultimately, again, the future of our sport, I don't want to seem it's so dire, but future of our sport kind of sitting on our shoulders, right? As we bring new people and new fans into the sport, and we think about how we're going to grow our races year over year, for fan attendance. And that's really that's going to be on our team. So it's a great position for us to be in, and really exciting for us.
Yeah, and it's a great point. Like the fact that, you guys selling and bringing in revenue is how the sport continues, right? So there is the probably internal pressure and external pressure to, to sell tickets and to get people in the chairs. So when it comes to COVID right now, what would you say, how are you guys as NASCAR as a whole managing the pandemic, and what you plan to have races, it sounds like in 2021, what does that kind of look like as of today?
Yeah, for sure. So huge kudos to our organization overall, because when the pandemic kind of started and a lot of games were getting postponed and leagues were getting put on hold and everything like that, our organization from the start said we want to be the forefront, be the leaders on this whole deal. So, the first thing that we said is we wanted to be the first sport back with live sports, which we were able to do that. We then said we want to be the first sport back with fans in our venues. We were able to do that. In the meantime, while everything was kind of on pause, we launched an iRacing or an e-racing thing. So it was, everything was on TV. That's what we were broadcasting of, our actual drivers that were sitting in their rigs, right, and they were doing the iRacing stuff, which was really cool. And so we've really been at the forefront of it all. And you think about NBA just going through their season and not having any fans. Major League Baseball, the same thing. NFL teams, some have fans, some don't. We've really been the ones that have led the charge there, which is super exciting for us to be on the forefront of that, because it gives us a great platform, right? As we go and we start talking to our fans, and they're obviously pumped to be able to be back out of the track. They're pumped for what's to come in 2021, and as we think about, as we head into that to 2021, we're gonna continue to be the leaders in that category, right? Have fans back in our venues and continue to move the needle as much as we can, because race days are obviously a lot better when you got people in the venue, right? So we're going to continue to do everything we can to be on the forefront of that and continue to lead the charge.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of, 2020, how did NASCAR answer the call to confront racial inequality in our country this year? And I know you kind of you were entering into an organization, so as far as your take on it goes as of now, I'm sure there was a lot of other people working behind the scenes who might have been there longer. But how would you describe how they managed it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and again, I think kudos to the organization for being on the forefront of that as well. One of the things that we did, and we took a very early stance on this, was banning Confederate flags from all of our races and our properties, and having a zero tolerance policy. I think, and that's whether you're flying a flag on the camper or you got a shirt on or whatever it is, like literally a zero tolerance policy. So that was really big, and to see the drivers and the whole sport get behind Bubba Wallace was really big for us. And I think you start to see this shift where Michael Jordan's coming on board now. He's going to be a team owner next year. Bubba's actually going to be his driver. I think we've done a great job of meeting that head on, and you're starting to see a lot of that play out. And again, people come into the sport that maybe wouldn't have otherwise, which is obviously great news for us as we move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so getting to kind of giving advice to students, what would you encourage them to do or people to seek out? What are some of the biggest things they can be working on now as a student to hopefully get positions in what sounds like inside sales as the first step?
For sure. Yeah. So I think the number one thing to do is start having conversations with people now. So utilize LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to be your best friend. Reaching out to inside sales managers across the country. And it's a really simple LinkedIn message. And it's hey, I'm a senior at UF. I want to get in the sports industry. Would love to take 20 minutes of your time to figure out how we can make that happen. Can you chat on Wednesday? Right? Like, it's pretty short and sweet. It's to the point. Because it's there. I was talking to one of the professors from the University of Miami actually yesterday. And I said, man, what a time to be alive, to be a junior or senior right now, because with everything that's gone on with COVID and with sports teams and stuff, a lot of teams have had to really cut back on their sales teams. Especially you think about, leagues like the NBA, MLB, like not having fans in the venue for a whole year, they've really, really trimmed back their sales team. So what's going to happen is that once this thing starts to turn and they start selling tickets again and people start coming back in their venues, there's going to be this massive need for salespeople. And so, if you're someone that's wanting to get into sports, wanting to get your shot, like there's going to be a ton of sales jobs. There just is. And I think that's the one thing I would say, that, have those conversations now, get yourself on radars of inside sales managers across the country, send them your resume, have follow-up touch points with them, do everything you can so that when this thing does start to turn, you're going to be in a really good spot to be able to be at the top of that list to walk into what's going to be a really good job for sure. There's going to be a lot of interest there, and there's going to be a lot of people banging the door down trying to get back in the venue, right? So you're going to have a lot of people to sell to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have a lot of career coaching meetings with the students, and I said, we can't project what will happen. This is a unique time, but all those jobs that have been cut will eventually come back. Sports aren't going anywhere. And so the timing of when those do, and people who've been furloughed who will likely have to take other jobs at some point if, the doors don't open again, that will leave potential new internships, do you think, as well, that could pop up as if the finances aren't there to actually pay somebody, that they'd be willing to take somebody on an intern first, as well as in opening the door for more sales positions? For sure.
Yeah, I think so. And although, for the organizations I've worked with, even their internships have been paid. They haven't really had too many unpaid internships. So, but yeah, I think the one thing, and I know I'm very biased when it comes to like the sales piece of it all, so I know it's what I'm harping on, but it never hurts to be in a revenue producing role, right? Whenever you're driving revenue and you're driving people to games, that's a good position to be in. And so I think that's from a job standpoint, I think that's what you're going to see come back first. There's going to be those revenue producing, positions, before you're going to see things like marketing roles and stuff like that come back. Just because, again, there's going to be a huge need that's going to be there to get people back in the venue.
That's awesome. I'm sure that will be very encouraging for many of our students, for sure, because obviously they've only seen all the cuts, not necessarily the idea that things will reopen. And then can you share some insight into what you look for when you're hiring on your sales team, and what students, as they send resumes in and things like that, what kind of quality skill sets that they need to be having or gaining skills in now to be able to put on their resume?
Yep, for sure. And I'm going to take the last question one step further before I answer that. There has been a lot of teams that have cut and done all those things. I just want to throw out there that NASCAR is currently hiring, and we have been hiring for several months now, where a lot of teams had to cut back. We have actually been growing our sales team. So our inside sales team historically has been 10 to 12 people. We have taken that to 24. And so we've really doubled our inside sales team. We've created a lot of new positions on our account executive level, which is kind of that next step up out of inside sales. So we're actively hiring, have been hiring, as other people have been cutting, we've been hiring. So if you guys are looking for positions, give us a call, let us know. Obviously, need to get more Gators over to Daytona Beach. But anyways, that's kind of my subtle plug there on that one. What question am I supposed to answer for you now?
What qualities? Qualities you're looking for.
What qualities? Yes, what qualities? So with college students, I think, it's the thing to think about is that we don't necessarily expect you to have a ton of sales experience, right? Like I used to get the question all the time when I was running the inside sales program with Marlins of like, hey, I don't have any sales experience. Is that going to hurt me? Not really, right? Because it's my job to coach, teach, and train you how to sell, right? It's my job to teach you about the sales process and how to have conversations with people and how to facilitate those opportunities, right? I think the one thing that we look for is just having a solid background and having some internships and showing that you've at least been around the sport in general. I think, and when I say the sport, I mean kind of sports collective term, not necessarily having to be around NASCAR, because I think it makes it a lot of sense for us. We know that you've been a part of a team, right? You've taken some coaching, you've had to be held accountable, those types of things, right? I think all make a ton of sense. We'll interview pretty much anybody, right? Because similar to myself, like I didn't really have any sales experience, and so it's really about trying to find the internal makeup of individuals, really, because sales is a grind, right? It is. There's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs, and there's a lot of in between. And so it takes, special people to be able to come in and really be able to meet that head on. So, we'll interview pretty much anybody just to have those initial conversations. But I think kind of tying back into one of your questions earlier, one of the things that can really help you in interviews is being able to speak to conversations you've had with others around the industry, which ties back into that outreach on LinkedIn, having those initial conversations and stuff, because as much as you can start to show you've got a knowledge of the industry and you know what it takes and you know what the expectations are and things like that as you step into that role, is going to really help you in those interview type situations.
Yeah, that's great. And what would you say to, like, when you're looking at resumes and you're kind of, are there any additional skills, anything for sales that you're really looking for, or systems that they should know or try and gain some knowledge around?
It's a good question. A lot of the systems that we use are like internal, so like our CRM system, our ticketing system, things like that. Like, there's really not a way for students to get a ton of experience with those, just because that's not necessarily something that's readily available, right? I think it's just really, when you think about stepping into an inside sales role, it's how well do you communicate, right? How well can you walk in and not only tell me why you want to work in this industry, but why you want to work for us specifically, right? And I think that was one of the things that I used to talk to candidates a ton about when I was during my time with the Marlins, was you ask the question, why do you want to work in sales? Well, I'm a big baseball fan. That doesn't help me out any, right? Like that doesn't do anything for me. I understand we're all baseball fans. I get it, right? Why do you want to work in sales? Being able to talk to that, be able to say exactly why that is. And then, when I ask you, hey, why do you want to work for NASCAR? Tell me why you want to work for NASCAR. Don't tell me why you want to work in sports, right? It's two different things. Tell me about the value you're going to bring to organization, right? Tell me why you're a better candidate than the person that we're going to talk to next. Like those types of things. And I think that whole kind of argument will be strengthened as you talk to other people in the industry and be able to get a better understanding about exactly what the job entails and what you're walking yourself into.
Yeah, and as far as sales go, what would you say? I mean, I think just as students are listening and kind of sorting through what they're looking to do, because some are still in the exploratory, ideas and they're not so sure about what they want. But it sounds like you were similar. You went to sales. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to be good at this. But how did you know you would be good? Like once you were in and you're like, yes, when you started making the sales and you enjoyed that aspect, or was it the team relationship side? Just because I think it's good for them to kind of gain knowledge around the holistic, like the whole job, not just the one role they play. To give them a real honest look into what you do.
For sure. I think the first time you run somebody else's credit card and you make a sale, that feels pretty good. And then it's that feeling never leaves you, right? Every single time you make a sale, it feels pretty good. So I think that was the one thing, but no, I think for me, it was, early on, it's like, again, am I going to be good at this? Am I not? And then you start to have some actual genuine conversations, right? And you start kind of walking people through this process that you were trained on, and you had no idea if it was going to work or if it didn't, right? But then all of a sudden you kind of start seeing it work, right? It works once and then it works again and again and again. And then it just kind of is like, hey, this isn't really that difficult, right? And I actually can make a pretty good amount of money with this. I can work in sports. I get to go to a lot of, at the time, baseball games, right? Like this all sounds pretty cool to me. There's a lot of promotion opportunities, a lot of career growth opportunities. I talk to kids all the time and say, it's crazy to think you can work your entire career and work in sports, and go to live sporting events for, all 40 years or whatever it is you end up working. Right. So not a bad gig. So I think that was the thing, it just all kind of came together for me and, figured out, hey, this isn't that difficult. I can do this. Feels pretty good to make sales. It feels pretty good to make money. Right. Like it all kind of came together. Like, hey, this is something I could see myself doing for a while.
Yeah, I always think like sales, you have your sales people, but I think when you add sports and sometimes it gets a little confusing, like, well, I just want to be in sports, so I'll take whatever job. But I do think it sounds like that is its own, entity, and there are not just sales, you get the bonus of being able to be at the events and things like that. But the majority of what you do is selling tickets. So
absolutely. So the one thing, I know we've kind of painted this picture of it's all glamorous, right? I think the one thing I would say is this, and I used to talk to our team all the time, and as I was hiring people, talk to them all the time about this. You have to think about it as that, if you were going to come on board as an inside sales representative with NASCAR, right? You have to understand that you work in sales, you don't work for NASCAR, right? Technically you work for NASCAR, yes. But you have to view it as you are a salesperson that just so happens to get to sell NASCAR tickets. That's the product in which you sell. Because to your point, a lot of times, especially kids coming right out of college, just have this whole dream of working in sports, right? And you ask, hey, what do you want to do long term? Oh, I want to be the GM. All right. Well, guess what? That's not going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off right now. It's not going to happen. So, what's your second choice, right? And start kind of going down that path. But you got to view it as you work in sales, right? And just so happens you get the product you're selling is the team and the organization, the sport, and not vice versa. Because if you come in with this whole thing of, hey, this is awesome, we work for NASCAR, really cool office, hey, Daytona International Speedway is right there, that's sick, right? That whole newness and shine at some point is going to start to wear off, and you're going to come to the reality of, hey, I'm required to make a lot of phone calls during the day, right? I'm required to actually sell tickets. I've got actually sales quotas I have to hit, right? And then that's where it starts to come. So if you can get to that realization on the front end and understand the sales piece of it, then the rest of it will take care of itself.
Yes, I appreciate the honesty. I think that's the or remembering what you're there to do, right? And I think that sounds like the Marlins would be the same. It's not just NASCAR. It's the idea of like, oh, I'm going to work alongside the team, and I have to remind them like there is a front office and team operations separation in a lot of ways that like
Very separate.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's really hard to cross over, whether that's on a job or just engage with the other side. And so I try and remind them, but it's so super good to hear from you and a professional who's doing it. Like you really are sales first, even though it is a NASCAR ticket.
For sure. And the one thing I would say, and it's the same with NASCAR, but we'll talk about kind of team sports to start with here. There is a pretty big divide between the business side and the operation side, right? And that kind of ties back into my question earlier. Hey, what do you want to do long term? Well, I want to be a GM. Okay, so you need to go to this side of the business and try to work your way up there, right? It doesn't really work. There's like, because we see it all the time, again, we talked earlier about all the sales positions that are going to be open. We hire more salespeople than any other department, right? There's always a need for really good, solid salespeople in every organization, right? So we just inherently are going to hire more people than our counterparts on the other side. So a lot of times there's this idea of, well, I'll do this for 6 months and then I'll transition over. That's not a thing, right? That's not a thing at all. And quite frankly, if you're going to do that, right, why waste 6 months doing this when you're going to have to start back at square one on this side, right? Much better just to continue to try to work your way up the other side, if that's ultimately what you want to do, which is cool as well. That's just always my biggest advice is like, don't think that this is your foot in the door, right? And sidebar for anybody watching this, if you have an interview, don't say you want to get your foot in the door. That is the worst thing you can say. Say that and your foot's out the door, right? That's the worst thing you can do. So that ties back into, tell me why you want to work for our organization. Tell me what value you're going to bring. Tell me why you want to work in sales, right? Be specific, be able to talk through that, and not just this whole, like, I'm a sports fanatic. That's why I want to work for your organization.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's another great plug for honesty and reality in the sports world for sure. And I think it's always good too to mention the fact that like hours, I don't know about NASCAR, but I'm sure with the Marlins, like the hours, the commitment, the sacrifice in the sports industry is really, probably more extreme than a regular 9 to 5 that doesn't work with, games, matches, wherever those are across the country. And depending on your role, the travel, so are you that interested in the job itself, not just the team you work for?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and you think about work-life balance in NASCAR is a lot better than team sports. We've got races on weekends, and they're spread out across the country, and you're not having to worry about having 10-game homestands and stuff like that, right? Those hours can start to stack up on top of each other pretty quickly. So it's definitely it's more of a commitment than just getting the chance to wear the logo on your polo, right? There's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of long hours that are part of it. But ultimately, if you're committed to it and that's what you want to do long term, it certainly certainly can pay off for sure. Because again, it's cool to be able to think that you could work your whole career and go to live sporting events for the whole time, right? It's not a bad gig at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just have 2 more questions, and one would it be okay if we shared your contact information? Are you already in the Gator to Gator where our students can message you?
I may have signed up. I'm not sure. I did get the email though, so I need to go back and see if I signed up or if I didn't. I think you guys sent that to me when I was in Kansas. Anyways, I'll take a look at it. But yes, feel free to share my contact information. I love getting the chance to chat with college students, love getting the chance to provide some career advice. I've been really fortunate in the last, my 5 years in the industry to have some really strong mentors and people who have given me a lot of good advice and pointed me in the right direction. So, happy to have those conversations and being able to provide some advice, because ultimately, it can be a grind trying to get into the industry. There's a lot of people that want to work in the industry, and there's a finite number of jobs, right? So anything I can do to help with some advice and pointing students in the right direction. Obviously, any UF students I can help, obviously the more the better. Happy to share that contact information and be able to set up some calls and do whatever I need to do there.
Okay, awesome. Really appreciate that. I'm sure our students will take you up on that offer. And then I did hear, and you don't have to speak to it, we can always edit this out, but the NASCAR University, I heard someone kind of threw that out there. Didn't know if you wanted to speak to that
Yeah.
yet. Heard it's a new thing, but
For sure. Yeah, I was hoping we'd get the chance to chat about this. So yes, just launched yesterday, NASCAR University, something that we've been working on for probably the last 2 months or so. Really excited for the program. It's something I was doing on a smaller scale when I was at the Marlins, but to have the power of the brand behind it and some resources and everything about it, and actually having a formalized program now is super exciting for us. So what we're going to be, and proud to announce that UF is going to be one of our partners. So go Gators there. Huge kudos to Brian and the rest of the team for giving us the go ahead there. But really the program is going to be built on what I would call 4 different pillars. So kind of 4 pillars of the program. The first part is going to be that I and some of our other sales leaders will be coming in and teaching some classes. So still trying to work through what those classes are, what that's going to look like. It may be things that students sign up for. I don't know, Brian and I are going to kind of work through that. But the idea is that we would start to provide some actual sales training, right? And be able to start showing students what it looks like to work in sales and work in sports sales. And provide some of the same training that we provide our current team members, and teaches sales process and all those types of things. So sales training, kind of sales 101 is going to be part of that. The second part of that is the second pillar is going to be actually getting the chance to sell tickets for some of our actual NASCAR events. So you think about taking that training on the front end, now having the practical application of actually selling some tickets for us, which is going to be really cool and really rewarding, and obviously is a great benefit of getting a chance to work with a big brand like us as well. So pillar 2 is getting a chance to, like I said, to actually sell some tickets. Pillar 3 is going to be some guaranteed interviews for internship and full-time job opportunities for those that are top performers in the program. So again, a lot of that will be based on interactions during training, how well you sell tickets, that type of thing. Those that have really shown that aptitude for wanting to get into sports sales. We're going to be able to provide some guaranteed internship and full-time job opportunities and interviews there, which would be great. And then pillar 4, which I think is probably maybe the most exciting of it all, is we're going to be having some students come over and actually help me and my team execute our group sales assets on race weekends. So really, if you think about kind of start to finish, getting training on the front end, having a chance to actually sell some tickets, and then come over and actually see it in live fire action, I think is really cool and is obviously a great experience. And when I mean come over and help, I don't mean like standing in the parking lot helping park cars. I mean like actually being right next to me and my team as we are, on pit road 10 minutes before, green flag dropping. And we've got a group of 200 kids singing God Bless America, that type of thing. So really excited for that. Huge opportunity. More information to come, from Brian and the rest of the team on what that process is going to look like and the sign up and application process and all that. But really excited from our end to have UF as one of our partners. We are looking to have 3 to 4 partner schools for each of our tracks. So it's certainly not a come one, come all type scenario. It's a very kind of niche group. So if you get the chance to be part of NASCAR University, you're going to be part of a select crew that's going to be taking part with us across the country. So like I said, a lot more to come there, but a lot of exciting stuff, and really glad we got that off the ground, and obviously have UF as a partner of ours as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're excited about it too, and the new launch and all of that. So it'll be a great opportunity for our students. Hopefully many of them will apply. And I think we're going to do an event hopefully in the spring with you guys too, maybe coming over to one of your races as well. There's no COVID issues.
Yeah.
But,
So
yeah.
So the plan is to have some students come over and help us for what we call speed weeks in Daytona. That encompasses all of our leading events all the way up to the Daytona 500. So our team obviously has been actively selling for all of those events, and a lot of opportunities from the group sales side there. So, we're going to need some help. So we're looking forward to having some UF students come over and take part in those weekends with us.
That's awesome. Well, also, did you spearhead the NASCAR University? Was that your kind of idea and push that through, or is that something you've been a part of before?
I did, yeah. So that was us. That was me spearheading that effort. So that's why you see me so jacked up about it. But no, it's like I said, it's something we've done on a smaller scale when I was at the Marlins. But like I said, to actually have the brand behind it, have a NASCAR University logo, to have the parameters built out, have resources behind it, is a lot of fun, and it's going to be really cool. So really excited to see where it goes and how it takes off. But we know that it's going to be successful, and so we're looking forward to working with all the students across the country, and again, hopefully providing some really good job opportunities for them after they graduate as well.
Awesome. And those are all my questions. Gabby, unless you have a question, mindful of your time, we're so thankful for you spending the almost hour with us and giving us such good insight for the students. Gabby, do you have anything?
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any questions over here. I just want to say thank you, and I'm super excited about the program you guys are starting. I feel like that's the one area of sports in the collegiate level you don't really see when you're taking classes. You learn about operations, management, the law behind it, all of that. But the kind of one thing that I at least think that has been misplaced is the sales side, because there are so many people that are interested, and it is such a large part of sports. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head on the needs there for the students. It's really awesome. I'm super excited personally. So
awesome. Well, yeah, sounds great. Well, I appreciate the time, guys, and like I said, feel free to share my contact information with anyone, and happy to be a resource. And I know we'll all be working really closely together moving forward as well. So
sounds
excited
good,
on
David. Thank you so much, and go Gators.
Thanks, David. Go Gators.
See you guys.
Bye.